I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Peter Kling. If you'd like to make a donation for our film fundraiser for movie number 3, anything is greatly appreciated. We have links for you right in the description. Any donation of $100 or more, and you get a film credit as well as a pre-release copy of the film. We are booking guests for March. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Also, be sure to check out my previous films. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi, Roku, Apple, a few more. Doors of Perception is on Amazon Prime, and a free service called Relay. Today, I want to welcome back to the show Peter Kling. He is an author and researcher whose family has a 500-year history of standing for the truth. He used his education and life experience to unlock the secrets in the scriptures, which the church has kept hidden for over 1,000 years, including evidence of a history of interactions with interdimensional beings. Peter, welcome back. How you doing?
Excellent, Chris. Excellent. I've been looking forward to doing your show again for such a long time. It's just a lot of times life sends you on different paths that need to be ferried out first,
Yeah,
or ferreted out.
I hear that for sure. Well, I'm looking forward to this discussion. In your previous appearances, we discussed the evidence of biblical prophecy unfolding, particularly Revelation. If you've been paying any attention to unfolding events over the past few years, and maybe you're familiar with biblical scripture, the parallels are quite compelling. My big question is, how much is really part of a divine plan, and how much is part of intentional theatrics, wars, and high-impact divisive events to have us manifest an outcome that aligns with prophecy? We're going to get to this and much more according to what you were telling me before we jumped on here. But before we do any of this, it's been a while. Remind the audience just a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more if they'd like.
Well, sure. Peter Kling, I'm known as the Einstein of biblical prophecy. And the reason is that I eliminated religious dogma and I added science a very, very long time ago. I actually comprehended the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation before the age of 5. 65 years ago. 65
Wow.
years ago. This has been a lifelong mission. Now, so many times I've asked myself, why does this happen to me? It's a legitimate question. Why me in order to do what I'm doing today? And I've always been looking for an answer for that. And I knew it had to do with my ancestry, but I didn't realize how much it had to do with it. And what I found several years ago, and I say several years ago, good thing I didn't know when I was a kid, I would have been impossible to live with. But it was 2019, I came across my family ancestry, which took me back all the way to the point of the Reformation. The original family name was Klingenschmidt. We were from Germany. We were bell makers. Think about that. We made bells. And when we weren't making, we had the technology, the metallurgy. The family knew how to make bells, but we also made suits of armor and swords and other things like that. We were metalsmiths. We were also very strong supporters to Martin Luther. As a matter of fact, we were one of the families that hid him when he was translating the Bible from Latin into German, which then, hello, Gutenberg Press.
Yeah.
And off we go. So, and because of that, basically what everybody did back then, that we have no concept of, because we have birth of a religion, right? Or the against the Catholic Church. But they actually were declaring war against the papacy. Mm-hmm. Think about that. They would, and it was the Catholic Church that installed the kings of Europe. That the Roman Empire couldn't beat Germania. The Holy Roman Empire started with Germania and went through the rest of Europe, right up to the Vikings. So what they couldn't conquer by force, they conquered by a position from God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see? And so, as a matter of fact, that the first king of Europe, and I couldn't quite figure this out. Why does everything link back to Germany? Well, the first king of Europe was a Germanic king. And he was appointed by the papacy. And there started the Holy Roman Empire. That kingdom, we now best known as Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. I think that's what it is, Gotha-Coburg. Well, actually, we understand it more as the House of Windsor.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Okay, so think about that. But what happened back then is because we declared war on the Catholic Church, we had a physical battle with the Catholic Church, and the history says that they killed us, and I'm sure it was all the families back then that the church was after. But they killed us in the fields, in the streets, and in our own beds. Mm. Think about, so there's a family history there. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. The only documented white American Indian chief is a distant cousin of mine. And he was known as, which is crazy, he was known as Chief White Peter or Chief Good Peter. Yeah, documented because of religious persecution. The death sentence was installed up until after the Napoleonic Wars. And then it took a little bit different turn. But I had two cousins who were brothers who emigrated to America in the late 1600s. And it was at it was actually Fort Klingenschmidt, which is now it's outside of Jeannette, Pennsylvania. There was a raid on that fort, and two brothers, two of the sons from one of the brothers were taken in a raid against, I believe, was the Sequoia. No. It'll come to me, but it was one of the major tribes that basically occupied the Ohio Valley and the northern Mississippi, and they wound up. The sixth Philip escaped, but they never saw Peter again. Not until a long time after that, and he was actually sold to the Oneida Indians, part of the tribes that went across upper New York State and down into Pennsylvania, and he became the first white American chief of that tribe, and he was an ambassador to the Seven Nations. And that's an interesting history that they were able to document. Yeah. He showed up and came back to civilization. But you can actually see a picture of him as an Indian chief. It's a painting.
Yeah,
you find it online.
Very interesting family history indeed.
Yeah.
And as I was
And
saying in my intro, a lot has happened since we last spoke. Right now, the big thing, of course, is the Epstein file revelations, which folks like us were aware of the things going on in those files for a very, very long time. So that's nothing new. But you say revelations, the information coming out, you could also say that it could relate to biblical prophecy. What are your thoughts on everything that has unfolded so far?
oh well, I'll tell you what my thoughts are exactly. I'm so impressed about what's been happening, and one of the reasons I haven't been back on your show is because I got involved in starting my own show. Essentially, it's on TRIM Radio, Trim Radio, but you can find it's on Rumble and YouTube, and you can find it generally live on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern.
Great.
And the whole thing starts out explaining Revelation. And so it started October 21st, I think it was, or 20th, interesting time. And it's still going on. Some of the transmissions are so because they use StreamYard. And but the show's packed with the information, including the Epstein stuff, because the Epstein stuff is going to unravel everything. And I heard the comment the other day that this whole thing with the Epstein file is going to be like pulling a thread on a knitted blanket. The more you pull, the more it unravels until it leads right up to the Vatican.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, you've been paying attention to what I've been saying. But yeah, I went, when I published Letters to Earth, You Can Survive Armageddon, it was written for this time period now. I wrote it, it was published in 2009. How long ago? 17 years ago. Yeah. And it went from foretelling what was going to happen to now living what's happening. It's become a history book.
It's a wild time to be alive.
Yeah. And so I don't care where you want to start, but here's the thing. Epstein, direct connection to the synagogue of Satan.
Yeah.
And people are waking up that these people are Satanists, that they're sacrificing our children, and they've woken up to the fact that are about 800,000 kids from the United States go missing every year. It's now the largest industry on the planet.
Yeah,
that's insane. It's interesting. I started going down that rat hole in 2012, beginning of 2013, somewhere right in there. And within 24 hours of me posting information about child sacrifice on Facebook, and back then you weren't censored, like, right. Well, you can't, So I posted a lot of truth back then. Yeah. Within 24 hours, I got a message from somebody who they didn't identify himself directly, one of my friends list, but he told me, he gave me his credentials, and he said, if you continue down this path, they will come, they will find you, and they will kill you. And considering what had already happened, because that book made it into the hands of very, very powerful people, and I found that out firsthand, because I told the truth. And we're going to talk the truth now, because now it's becoming common knowledge.
Yeah.
Back then, it got me in trouble by some very, very powerful people. One of the main one is been commissioned to rebuild Solomon's temple. Guess where? Sao Paulo, Brazil first, but there's going to be an identical one going into Jerusalem. If they build it, it will not come into conflict with the mosque there, because where the mosque is built is on top of the old Roman fort. There's not a stone left upon a stone where the temple stood, and we know where the temple stood. Jewish archaeologists or Hebrew archaeologists put it next to the pool of Siloam, which was right outside the temple.
Let's get into the most prolific correlations that you see with events unfolding and biblical prophecy. Where should we start with that?
Okay, we're going to take it right off planet number one. And it starts off planet. The Earth was life on Earth was genetically engineered all the way up to the creation of Adam, which was an original creation out of the elements of the ground, and he was breathed the life of God into his nostrils and became the youngest member of an intergalactic, nay, interdimensional species. Adam was the only direct connection created by Yahuwah, which is when we breathe, that is the sound our lungs make, Yahuwah. It's encoded in our DNA, and we are children of the Creator. Think about that. An off-planet entity that created everything. It's an intelligence. It's a soul life form, the greatest one in existence. And then we were abducted, kind of like this kidnapping that just has been going on, the Guthrie kidnapping. Mm-hmm. It's made national news. Well, what do you think happened when humans, or let's call them Adamites as a species, was captured? And who captured? An interdimensional, very powerful extraterrestrial being that we now call Satan, who a large part of the population who governs this rock sacrifices our children to.
Peter, if you study the modes that this being operates, it almost seems like an interdimensional parasite that has infected human consciousness in a sense.
It certainly has. And it infected human consciousness right in Genesis. Mm-hmm. Is it true that you're not allowed to eat from any of the trees of the garden? And Eve said, didn't have direct contact with our Creator. She had direct contact with Adam. It was Adam that walked with God in the breezy part of the day. And they spoke. Well, don't eat from this tree, because the day of your eating from it, you will die. Now, you can go by one God day, but using science to decode what's happened in the Bible, the tree of knowledge of good and bad also contained a virus which attached itself to our DNA. Let's call it the telomere virus. All right. They found a splice mark between the telomeres and our DNA. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, what? So the very day that they ate from that fruit, they were going to ingest this telomere virus that was going to destroy their DNA and cut our direct connection off to our Creative Father, because he won't have anything to do with what's not perfect. And we were perfect. We were perfect in every way. And we know that we were, Adam was a direct creation, but Eve was genetically engineered from Adam. And we know that by what's written in the scripture. Sleep comes over, God causes sleep to come over Adam, removes part of a rib, genetic material, closes the wound, and proceeds to build a woman from the man. How do you do that? You ever watch The Fifth Element? Hey, we got a glove there. We got a hand and a glove. We'll put the whole thing together. Yeah.
Part of this manipulation also cut down very significantly the amount of life that humans had, correct?
Absolutely. And that we deal with the first alien invasion of planet Earth and the story of the Watchers from the Book of Enoch. Mm-hmm. In Genesis, it talks about the sons of the true God, so that basically Earth women were hot. Yeah. And look, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so they took wives for themselves, all that they chose. And this is integral into what's actually happening today. Those watchers that came down and fathered the Nephilim, a hybrid race that God didn't want back. In Genesis, I believe it's the 11th chapter, when Noah comes out of the ark, there's the rainbow, and he gives a sacrifice to Noah, to God. And God says, hey, now that you're out of the ark, you're allowed to eat meat, but you can't eat meat with its blood, for within the blood is the soul. And he says, I shall ask back the soul from every living creature. From man himself, I shall ask back their soul. When we die, our soul goes to heaven. And yes, Susie, all good dogs do go to heaven. Mm-hmm. From every living creature. It's knowledge absorbed. Okay. It's a life form that's gone back to the creator of all life forms. And so that's basically what happens. I've also had a near-death experience. So I've experienced my soul being separated from my body. Mm. I was conscious, but damn, I was dead too. Yeah. I watched them wheeling my body away from a conscious position, which was being absorbed into the great white light directly. And I could feel myself being pulled away. Consciously, I could feel myself as I was still some sort of physical entity, but I was being pulled. And when I looked to where I was being pulled to, there it was. It was like you ever see the simulations of black holes? Mm. And that's what it was, but with white light. And I was like I was in a tractor beam. My consciousness was enveloped in what looked like smoke in the third dimension. But now it was just one big connection right back to, hello. Yeah. Hi, Dad, I'm home. Gives you a little different perspective. But how does it relate to us? It relates to us that we're dealing with extraterrestrial entities. Mm-hmm. The aliens, they're back. And the technology all revolves around this. But it's not just, it goes deeper, because these entities have been controlling this planet and been creating the Roman games where it costs people their lives. Mm-hmm. Now think about this. When the Watchers came to Earth, they came to Earth with the purpose of starting a family, right? And so we got the giants. And what did the giants do? It got so bad that the giants were actually eating men, eating people. Yeah. There's a hieroglyph in, I think it's in Africa, where it shows this man carrying 2 elephants on a tree trunk over his shoulder. Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. How big is that man, or how small are those elephants, But regardless, still. The stories of men of old. Well, here's the thing. The reason I brought up the soul is that God didn't want those souls back. He didn't want those souls back. So while their fathers were gathered up and thrown into Tartarus, into the pit, he didn't want their sons. And so they became disembodied spirits, the mighty men of old, the gods that we're going to worship. And so we look at, and then it starts right in ancient Samaria. Under the kingdom of Nimrod, who now they found his corpse. Why do you think they want his corpse? Hello, DNA, right? Mm. Yeah. Tell me that there isn't somebody playing with that. I don't know. They found, it all depends on how well it's been preserved, because we know that the Russians are playing with baby mammoth DNA. They want to get back to growing an original mammoth. That'd be interesting. Well, all the ice clears up in the north. They're going to need animals to take care of that area, I guess. I'm not sure. But I want to start this off really with what is written in Ephesians 6, and it's the 11th through the 12th verse. And the reason why is that we're told to put on the armor of God, but it's interesting the verbiage. And I'm going to read this from. It's kind of a very more modern day translation. I love it. It's the book by Tyndale Publishing. It came out, and I like the older version. I think it's 86 that it came out. But here's what it says. It's verse 11 in chapter 6. Put on all the armor of God so that you will not be able to, so that you will be able to stand steadfast against all strategies and tricks of Satan. For we are not fighting against people made of flesh and blood, but against persons without bodies, the evil rulers of the unseen world, those mighty satanic beings and great evil princes of darkness who rule this world, and against huge numbers of wicked spirits in the spirit world, the gods of yesteryear. Now, it's interesting. I'm going to tie something right in without hopping back over to Jeffrey Epstein. But look what's going on in Iran right now, right? Mm-hmm. Iran is allegedly to be involved in the overthrow of the 2020 election, along with Venezuela, Serbia, England, Italy, Canada, China. The biggest and the baddest, and the one that you would think would be behind the whole scheme, but no. Who was behind the scheme? The Vatican.
Yeah.
Remember the classic picture? I think it was 2018, 2017 when Trump went over to the Vatican to see the Pope. Mm-hmm. And Trump and Melania and his daughter standing there, and the women are dressed in traditional black because they were married women, and when you go visit the Pope, a married woman has to dress in black. And there's Trump, just with this big old, shit-eating grin, for lack of a better word, old grin. He looked like the cat that just ate the canary. And then you look at the Pope, and it's like, oh, must have been the Pope's canary that just got eaten. So what do you have? You have the Jesuits, who are basically one of the factions running this planet. They control the banking system in China. Mm-hmm. And that comes from Karen Udis, who was an attorney for the World Bank. She made that claim. But yeah, and then you've got how many assassination attempts on Trump? Come on, including the bullet that skinned his ear, and Trump said that it was only by the hand of God that saved him. And he's also said that he feels like he's on a mission from God. And interestingly enough, on May 17th of this year, he is having a rededication of America back to God. Oh. And what's it say in Revelation 3, verse 9? I will make those from the synagogue of Satan who claim to be Jews and are not, but are lying. I will bring them before you, and they will do obeisance at your feet, for I will show them how much I love you. Oh. Yeah, there's a lot more. And so what we're going to find with these Epstein files is the exposure of the synagogue of Satan. Those Satanists who have been controlling this planet and are still currently controlling the planet.
So let me ask you, you think Trump is not a part of that class?
No, he's a part of a different class.
Okay.
Back to Revelation.
Okay.
Oh, there isn't enough time in one episode to go through all this. That's why, hey, look me up on YouTube or Rumble, Peter Kling, Revelation. You'll find it. There's a lot of information there. And to totally comprehend it, you have to know who the players are, right?
Right.
We only get to see the front men. we don't get to see the principalities.
So you wouldn't consider Trump part of the Epstein class crew?
No, if you were a billionaire, you were going to have a file on Epstein. I'm sure there's a file on the woman who cleaned Epstein's toilets if they had any communication.
Well, I believe Trump is mentioned an extreme amount of times in the files.
Yeah. And allegedly, you remember his Trump casino?
Mm-hmm.
The FBI had that thing bugged from top to bottom. With Trump's permission.
But he was also involved with Trump's modeling agencies. Epstein was using to traffic women. Am I wrong on that?
That, I can't really answer that because I haven't read those files. But there's a lot of files between Epstein and Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But what people tend to forget, you have to go back and look at Trump's history. Trump was such a radical kid that they actually sent him to school at the New York Military Academy in Cornwall, New York. He was raised in a military academy.
Mm.
And it's been alleged that Trump is actually the son of General Patton. And damn, look at the pictures of the two of them.
Mm.
Why would the generals pick him? Why would the generals pick Trump? Do you think that he wasn't groomed for this since the time of his birth?
What is concerning to me is the technocracy, the movement to usher in a global technocratic, what seems to be surveillance state with AI governance.
Oh, okay. Let's get into this. Okay, let's get into this because we're going down different paths. But we gotta step back. Okay. Because I want to go back to Ephesians and what it said. Who we are fighting against, these principalities. Who are the principalities? Okay, because this ties in. When you go back to the book of Daniel, Daniel's praying to God about, hey, I need to know what's going to happen to the rest of your people while what's going on. Well, finally, the angel Gabriel shows up and he says, sorry, I'm late, Daniel, but I had to fight the prince of Persia. And he wouldn't let me pass, so I had to get Michael, the foremost one among your people, to come. And he's fighting the Prince of Persia so I can deliver the message. Okay, so you have extra-dimensional entities that are fighting the Prince of Persia, who had Daniel captive, who had just defeated Babylon, ancient Babylon. Persia became the Fourth World Empire. That's a strong principality that's in charge today. It's Iran. Persia, Iran, the principality, which now takes us back to Revelation in the seven-headed fiery colored dragon. And it says that Michael and the dragon and its angels did battle against Michael and his angels, but it did not prevail, and there wasn't a place found them in heaven anymore. And so down to the earth they were cast. They lost their interdimensional ability to travel back and forth. Now they're in the proximity of the earth. And then it says, woe, woe, woe for the earth, for the devil has been cast down to you, having great anger, knowing he only has a short amount of time. And then we're coming for him. And this satanic empire on the planet. Yeah, that's where we are. Welcome to Revelation. And so what we're learning with what's going on with the Epstein files, you raise some good legitimate points with Trump. But look where he came from. And think about now we're going to go back to an event. And here's where you have to comprehend the science end in order to get this right. You got to go let's cover the fiery colored dragon, okay? This is the Satanic organization, the extraterrestrial, interdimensional Satanic organization, which set up governments ruling certain parts of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Because when Gabriel leaves, he says, well, I have to go back and fight the Prince of Persia. But look, the Prince of Greece is coming. Who was represented by the Prince of Greece? Who was the head guy? Hello, Alexander the Great. And we know how the fight between Persia and Greece had worked out. Yeah, not too good. Alexander kicked their butt all the way back to the border with India.
So why do you think the technocratic takeover is being allowed? It seems like they are implementing this global AI surveillance system through this current administration.
Well, it all ties together. I'm going to answer that question with a question.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in 2012 and 2013 with CERN? They fired that sucker up, and they found the God particle.
Okay.
They found it in 2012, and they found it again in 2013. And we got what we call the Mandela effect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's just your imagination. Well, yeah, tell that to the little girl in the movie Moonraker when she first sees Jaws and smiles.
Oh, yeah, that's
now she's got, that the whole attraction was the metal in the mouth.
Yeah.
What the hell? Now she's got a perfect smile. The braces worked. I don't know what to say. But yeah, wait a minute. Don't tell me I didn't imagine that. And it's the same thing with the Lion and the Lamb. The Lion and the Lamb, that prophecy given back in Isaiah is going to take place now, and they're tied together. As the Lamb of God, who is the Messiah, Yeshua, the Christ, Jesus, as we commonly call him in English today, and the Lion of Judah, who is also referred to Yeshua or the Messiah. And so we're going to see the lion side of this coming on. But then we get 1,000 years of peace. And so we're going through this transitional period. Now, you asked about AI, right? Mm-hmm. Trump did too. Well, when he came up with the AI last year, I'm like, okay, let me think about this. Okay, I obviously enough computing power to compute everything that's going on the planet. But it didn't quite come together until a couple of weeks ago when he came out with the Bureau of Peace. Was it the Justice League? Bureau of Peace? Wait a minute. That set off two different repercussions. That set off starts the fulfillment of two prophecies within Revelation. It starts the prophecy with this surveillance system in the latter part of Revelation chapter 13 with the building of the image of the wild beast. Is where we get the number 666, right? And we look for an antichrist. And you can neither buy nor sell unless you have the mark of the beast. And it works in China. You don't have your cell phone, you ain't buying a Coke.
Yeah.
You can't open up a pay toilet.
Right.
And China is going through its own gyrations right now. There's unrest in China. But, the other thing that with that Bureau of Peace, he also fulfilled Revelation chapter 16, verse 10, where God's bowl of anger gets poured upon the throne of the wild beast and it becomes darkened. Well, who's the wild beast? You see, you got to know the beast Revelation and who they are and what they mean. We covered that the uh, the fiery colored wild beast as being the interdimensional, intergalactic alien. Hello, there's your grays, there's your reptilians, there's your great whites, there's everybody there who is exposed themselves to the alien community since long before the creation of MUFON, and they've been right with us all the way back to the time of Noah, or Gilgamesh, or Nimrod. You see, it all ties back to ancient Sumerian. It goes back to the hello Anunnaki. Got to come up with some backstory. And so we get the Galactic Federation of Planets. Kirk's Enterprise. There's no intelligent life down on this planet. Beam me up, Scotty.
Well, how does this show that Trump is working on behalf of God? I also have to say that if the Epstein files do implicate him as being involved in any way with a sex trafficking ring, how can that go together with being on a mission from God?
Well, you see, they're not exactly on a mission from God. Okay. They are and they are not. But in order to comprehend this, you've got to look at another wild beast. And this is the scarlet-colored wild beast. Now, first, let's identify the United Nations here, okay? The United Nations is a beast, and I'm going back to Revelation 13, right in the beginning. Beasts are governmental systems, okay? All through prophecy, beasts are governmental systems. And so these beasts all have 7 heads because there's been 7 world power governmental systems controlled by the kings, controlled by the let's call them the Intergalactic Federation of Satan. Okay. There's your line, there's your chain of command. Dealing off-planet entities controlling what's going on here on this planet, and now we know that these off-planet entities have gotten to the point where they're now demanding live human child sacrifice. They are the worst of the worst. Okay, now it's interesting. Now let's take a look. I will digress here in a minute, but let's take a look at Revelation chapter 17. And in Revelation chapter 17, you have the scarlet-colored wild beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Well, wait a minute. This beast that's coming out of the sea has got 7 heads and 10 horns. But why is this one scarlet and that one's not? That one's a conglomeration of all sorts of beasts. Well, when you examine this beast that comes out of the sea is actually, and I'll just keep it brief, it actually becomes what we call the League of Nations. It started ruling the planet governmentally. Now, it says that this beast gets a strike in one of its necks, and it gets a death blow, but it recovers. Okay, but then you don't hear about this beast anymore. Now you find out about this beast, that lamb-looking beast with 2 horns. It looks like a lamb. It speaks like a dragon. And then it causes this image of the wild beast to be created. Why would they need an image of the wild beast? Well, Revelation 16:10. That the throne of the wild beast, and the wild beast gets its power, its throne from Satan. It's Satan's throne. So in this last 100 plus years since the League of the League of Nations after World War I to the United Nations in 1947, and what they do, the first thing that they did was made Israel a state. Do you think there was an agenda going on there? That the first one, here you have to do the homework and the research into the Rothschild family, which was controlling all, part of the main group controlling all of this. They weren't the main group, but they were the bankster arm, the cabal. They ran the banking cabal that is ruling this planet financially today. And their co-creators are the Jesuits. Go back to the Knights Templar, two riders on the same horse, both trying to control the Holy Land. It's the same agenda that's been going on for 2,000 years. And we're coming up on a very special anniversary very shortly, in 3 more years, 4 more years. No, 3.5 more years. But let's get back to these wild beasts. So once we identify these beasts within Revelation and their job and what they do and how they're all interconnected, and you got to go to different chapters to find this stuff out, because it's a little here, a little there, a little, and you got to make, it took almost 3 years to put this puzzle piece together and get all the interconnecting parts and see how it fits. And I know it's going to happen in the end, but it's interesting how it all comes together. Now, I brought up CERN because it said that CERN opened up a dimension. It opened up the dimension of Tartarus, which would be covered in Revelation chapter 9. The key of the pit of the abyss, and it releases this plague of locusts, but that are told to go after the men who do not have the seal of God in their foreheads. We can spend a half an hour on Revelation chapter 7, but let's go back. Let's see how these locusts, this plague that comes out of the pit of the abyss, has a king. In Greek, it's Abaddon. In Hebrew, it's Abaddon. In Greek, it's Apollyon, the king of the pit of the abyss. The king that was the ruler that was thrown into the pit of the abyss. The Watchers are back with us today. And that was the whole thing with CERN and the Mandela effect. And as Veterans Today published in 2000, in the December 19th issue, I think it is, odd number, of the Veterans Today magazine in 2013, December, that the whole reasoning for the Mandela ritual funeral was to bring world leaders together to sign a treaty with an off-planet entity. And it was, 2013. Boy, we could do a whole show on that, because this comet ISON, that was a turning point. You remember the movie 2012? Yeah. The reason why that came out is because they didn't know what was going to happen when they fired up CERN and went in to find the God particle. Stephen Hawking recommended, you guys better not do that. And what was CERN's mascot? Shiva, the destroying god, who is Apollyon, the destroying angel. It's also known as. Go back to the Book of Enoch. There were 200 of them, and they give you quite a few names of the people who started all this, or the entities that started all this. Great book, and it's totally congruent to my personal opinion with what happens in Revelation. Enoch was being shown the future, but he didn't have words to describe the fiery stuff. It looked like fire. Well, yeah, maybe. That's the only way you can describe it. If you never seen a plane before and you saw one fly overhead, and you would call it a giant bird, right? Yeah. Or a UFO, something like, something you've never seen before. Yeah. I've seen several UFOs, and it's like, oh, never mind, it just cloaked itself, must be ours.
So how does this tell us what is really behind Trump and what he's trying to accomplish?
Okay. Revelation chapter 17. Now we've laid the groundwork. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is talking about the scarlet-colored wild beast. Okay? And it's also talking about the eighth king. The scarlet-colored wild beast, the reason why it's scarlet is that it is royalty. And it's royalty which has been ruled by Babylon the Great, the religious empire, which became a harlot, or which was a harlot, and had a cup filled with the blood of the innocent ones and of the prophets. She was controlling the royals, and talked a little bit about this earlier. So she's riding this beast, and this beast turns on her and destroys her. And this is what John is told in Revelation chapter 17. But he talks about, he says, the beast that you saw was, but is not. And now this is during the time of John's, 2,000 years ago. The beast was here before, but then it wasn't anymore. And what happens? It ascends out of the abyss. This beast ascends out of the abyss. There's the connection back to Revelation chapter 9, the king of the pit of the abyss, Apollyon. Okay, there's a connection here, right? And so let's go back to the Prince of Persia. Who was the Prince of Persia controlling back during the time of Daniel? It was Cyrus the Great. Interesting, because Israel is referred to Trump as Cyrus the Great. Because Trump, just as Cyrus destroyed Babylon, Israel is expecting Trump to destroy Babylon the Great. They put Putin as Darius the Mede. It was the Fourth World Empire was the Medes and the Persians. And Cyrus died not too long after the conquering of Babylon, and it was actually Darius that repatriated the Jews back to the Holy Land. So, little future insight here, but you have to have things set up. Now, it goes on to say, and this is verse 8, it goes on to say, and when they see how the wild beast was, but is not, and yet will be present, those who dwell on the earth will wonder admiringly, but their names have not been written upon the scroll of life from the founding of the world. Okay, two different groups of people. Well, these people are not part of the group with their life written on the scrolls. And it goes, let's see. Here is where, in verse 9, here is where intelligence that has wisdom comes in. The 7 heads mean 7 mountains or 7 kingdoms. And there are 7 kings. 5 have fallen. 1 is, the other has not yet arrived. Okay, so the king that was there during John's day would have been Rome. And 1 has not arrived, the Anglo-American dual world empire. Yeah. Didn't we just see Trump in the royal coach go to the royal castle?
Right.
Yeah. The coach that's reserved for royalty.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think Israel is also representative of the synagogue of Satan?
That's a slightly different question. Yes. However, the Hebrew people are not. The Jewish people are not.
Of course.
You know, I won't be baited into anything that's anti-Semitic, because I'm not. I had friends who, when I was growing up, who were Jewish.
Of course
I had friends who were black. You know, back then everybody tended to get along.
We're talking Zionist Israeli government.
Which created by the Rothschild family, something that came out of World War I, something that goes back to what got me in trouble. Hello, the learned protocols of the synagogue of Satan, or I should say that the protocol of the learned elders of the synagogue of Satan. It's all laid out there. I wrote about that in chapters 10 and 11 in Letters to Earth. When I exposed, I said, look, they wrote this stuff over 100 years ago. And here's how it's working out today. And all the things that we see going on is how it's working out, even right down to the control of the Freemasons, the Masons that there's a whole nother show in itself there. But you look at these different government agencies, President Kennedy said that the secret handshake club, right?
Yeah.
And so he made reference to that club. Okay, they were dangerous. Why? Because they were the foot soldiers of the cabal, of the synagogue of Satan. Interesting. But it ties back. Now, getting back to this scarlet-colored wild beast, let's see, this is the beast that did have an administration, and then did not, and then ascended out of the abyss because they weren't going to let Trump back no matter what happened, and he made it back, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And so then now he came out with this Bureau of Peace. Okay, that's why the world wonders admiringly at this guy. It's Trump. He goes in, he commands a crowd. That's just the way he's always been that way. Gee, kind of like a general leading his troops. Yeah, could be. That would smack of that, wouldn't it?
It's very interesting because there are so many things that seem extremely beneficial that he's done, but on the other hand, some that seem extremely destructive. And I wonder if that's just the idea, if he is just a representative of a wrecking ball that is going to destroy the old system.
And that's why you have the image of the wild beast.
Okay.
A new system. But you see how you got to go back to it's like watching a ping pong match, comprehending how Revelation should be comprehended. In order to tie it back and forth, it's interrelated because everything on the planet is interrelated, but it's still being run by now that we've identified them, the Satanists.
Right.
Could you imagine this planet without Satanists? Whoa. Whoa.
I don't think we can. We haven't lived in an era without them.
Yeah, exactly. They've been large and in charge for a very long time, but they really took hold at the beginning of the last century. And that's really the start of Revelation and how it applies to us, the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
So how do you see events unfolding going forward?
Oh, well, this is how they're going to, let's go back to the prophecies. That's why the Revelation is here. And it's wrapped up in 17. It's just comprehending it. Anyway, he talks about this beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns. And in verse 11, he says, and the wild beast that was but is not, it's also itself an 8th king, but it springs from the 7. And what happens? It goes off into destruction. Wait a minute. That's twice. It ascends out of the abyss and it goes off into destruction. In other words, it makes an appearance and goes off into destruction. But let's continue. So these 10 horns, it says in verse 12, and the 10 horns that you saw mean 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but they do receive authority as kings 1 hour with the wild beast. These have one thought, and so they give their power and authority to the wild beast. Okay, so what happens here? Well, they kind of jumped at the gun. We're going to jump over verse 14 down to 15. Let's hit 14, because these 10 kings and the wild beast says they will battle with the Lamb, but because he is Lord of Lords and King of Kings, the Lamb will conquer them, and also those called and chosen and faithful with him will do so. Interesting wording there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's the eventuality. But before that happens, in verse 15, let's see. I'm going to drop down. Verse 16. The 10 horns that you saw and the wild beast, these will hate the harlot. Remember, the harlot was riding this 7-headed 10 horn. This is now the 8th king come to power. Hates the harlot. Okay. And they will make her devastated and naked. Hello, Pope Face. Was that pretty devastated look?
Yeah.
Standing next to Trump? Yeah. They will eat up her fleshy parts and completely burn her with fire. For God put it into their hearts to carry out his thought, even to carry out their one thought by giving their kingdom to the wild beast until the words of God will have been accomplished. So you want to know what's coming up? So let's pull on that thread of child trafficking and watch it go straight up to the Vatican. It's become public knowledge if you know where to look. But in Spain, it was between the late 40s, I guess after the war, the late 40s and the late 50s. The Catholic hospitals in Spain trafficked over 300,000 infants in that time period. Over 300,000 infants. They would anesthetize their mother during delivery, and madam, I'm sorry, but your baby died, and we've already disposed of the body.
Wow.
Yeah, they keep her knocked out. There were difficulties during the operation, whatever. And they would choose women from lower income or illegitimate births, things like that. They went full term. And so, yeah, over 300,000. What kind of money did they sell those for? Worse yet, how were those infants used? In the synagogue of Satan.
Yeah.
You see, and so go ahead, keep on pulling the S string. There's so much information there. It's like, I think people just looked at it, was like, this is crazy.
Now, because this discussion,
I ain't touching this.
Yeah. Now, because behind this discussion at the deepest level, there seems to be what you believe to be an extraterrestrial influence. As things progress, do you think that we will start to witness more and more of this extraterrestrial influence manifested here on Earth, as in possibly becoming more aware of their presence?
Yeah, without a doubt. The ultimate plan is for what is going on right now. And boy, you can look at it from a legal standpoint. We know that Satan had control of the planet once he damaged or Adam and Eve willfully damaged their own DNA, cut themselves off from the connection with our Creator. And then these principalities, you look at what's written in Revelation 12. It says that the great dragon, when it's thrown out of heaven, it drags 1/3 of the stars with it. Very powerful beings that we're dealing with. And so it's basically an insurrection at a cosmic level. And we have had direct influence going back to the Vril Society. The Vril is a parasitic way of these things taking control of your body. Mm-hmm. You can see the people with the very rich and notable people with the black eye.
Yeah.
The Black Eye Club. Yeah, that's the Vril entering the body and through the ocular nerve.
Yeah.
Blackens the eye. And so these people are demon possessed. And so, hey, some of them talk about it openly. Beyonce has. When I get on stage, that ain't me.
Yeah.
It's a Keisha or whatever the heck. It's somebody else. It ain't me.
Yeah.
Yeah. They take over the body and they get to be part of, have that physical interaction. Could you imagine what it was like for them not to have any physical interaction? Think about it. If we could never have physical interaction, but we did it one time, we're dealing with entities that did have human mothers that just went out of control. And we're also dealing with entities that just, for one reason or another, decided to join the Satanic Empire. We have to go back, let's call it pre-Adam and Eve. I have to believe that many of these entities were part of the genetic engineers that created life here on Earth. Oh, God did it in 6 days. What's he been doing for the last 6,000 years then, if he did it in all 6 24-hour days? I didn't know God ran on my clock,
So essentially, these beings are disembodied spirits of these ancient extraterrestrial Nephilim that are still affecting people.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Now, not all of them. Not all of them. Because you also have a third of the stars which were dragged down. So you have the Prince of Persia, who was never a Nephilim.
Yeah.
The Nephilim are stuck here. We're dealing with interdimensionals who can pop in and pop out at will. You don't need a portal.
Yeah.
You create your own. And one of these days, believe it or not, we'll have that ability. We'll have the ability to create a portal and step through it.
Do you think the extraterrestrial, the UFO disclosure is preparation for what's to come, for what we might witness?
Yes. I've had talk to people that have had genuine extraterrestrial or strange, beyond bizarre things occur. But there's a lot of people that'll tell you that they had contact. I had contact when I was 18. It was, and it took quite a few years to put it. It took almost 40 years to put that into perspective. But at the time, I was dating a girl. I was head over heels in love with her. Her father was a high-ranking Freemason, and her mother was a high-ranking Eastern Star. Yeah, I didn't know it until much later. She had a younger sister who was a twin. One of the twins died. Wonder how that happened.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then there's the infamous box who, damn, it's almost like playing Jumanji. You have the box, your life goes crazy. You want to talk about demonic possession? Yeah, her sister had that box, and an entity would take over her body. She became Trixie. Yeah.
Do you think this is happening?
I was dating this girl. Her parents loved they loved me like I was the son they didn't have yet.
Do you think the spiritual possession is happening on high levels with some of our global leaders and elites?
It would certainly seem that way, because when you like I said, who was controlling Cyrus the Great when you got the Prince of Persia and the Prince of Greece is coming, and who's controlling what's going on with Alexander the Great? And so then you would have to go, what prince is controlling the Roman Empire? What prince is controlling the Anglo-American dual world empire? But see, but the eighth king, the prince of the king of the pit of the abyss, the prince of darkness. There was, Jesus, the Satanic Empire was already in full swing when Jesus was on the earth. And you look at what was happening in his tests. The final test, Satan takes him to this unusually high mountain, shows him all the kingdoms of the earth, and he said, hey, for an act of worship, they're all yours. What kind of deal did Satan cut with the Watchers to get them to leave their position and come down and cohabitate with women, creating a hybrid offspring, so what, their offspring could inhabit the earth and it wouldn't be God's offspring? And you could live there with your families indefinitely. It would be your earth. And that didn't happen. So, okay, well, all you disembodied spirits, hold on. We're at least going to give you a bone. You're never going to be able to touch anything again, but you can enter people and possess them, and we'll create a ritual for it. Putting the gin in the bottle, and the genie in the bottle. The J-I-N, not the G-I-N.
Yeah.
That usually take out of the bottle, but anyway, it's the genie in the bottle. It's the flying carpet. It's something that someone casted a spell over and had the ability to bind these. They knew the magic words. It's alleged that Jack Parsons from the JPL laboratories used to go out into the desert and carry on Babylonian.
Yeah.
So you know about that. He carried on these Babylonian sacrificial rites in order to make extraterrestrial contact, to get advanced technology, so he would have successful rockets.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mean just like the Germans did? And just like the Vril Society did? The Vril Society, we're back to those people. They joined with the Thule Society. It all surrounded, they all used child sacrifice in order to get the knowledge that they wanted from interdimensional extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah, and we're just starting to scratch the surface on the corruption and the darkness that people like the Epstein class were involved with. But there's so many layers beyond that many people will never be aware of, some extreme darkness. But for the last few minutes that we have here, what are your final thoughts based on everything we said today? What do you think we should be focused on in the coming days, weeks, and years?
A personal connection to our Creator. Sum it up that easy. To reclaim our Adamic right, and to refocus on connecting with our Creator, to get back with Yahuwah is the old ancient Hebrew name. Jehovah is the modern English name. And it's interesting. People have a problem with finding God's name in a Bible anymore. And King James, who was connected to the Freemasons, had God's name removed from the Bible over 7,000 times. Mm-hmm. So go find a version that put it back in. Yeah, I wish you well with that. When you find one, read it. Yeah, because Jehovah or Yahweh, whichever one that they were using at the time, it was most likely Jehovah or Yehovah. That name, it was replaced by Lord our God or Lord God. Because they didn't want to say his name, because they wanted to use the Bible for a Freemason Bible where they can stick in their own God's name. Yeah. We do a whole show on how all this ties together in a historical roundup. Yeah. But that's at the connection. And, Jesus said that we're going to be facing some pretty difficult times. And in Matthew, the 24th chapter, he goes down a whole list. Interesting. There's a whole show there just in Matthew 24. But in Matthew 24, it says that if things would get so bad that if those days weren't cut short, no flesh would be saved, or everyone would be dead. But because of the chosen ones, or the elect ones, depending on the translation, those days will be cut short. And so, who are the elect ones? Let's see. Are they specially chosen by God? No. The elect, when Jesus was here on the planet, did he say, "Oh, join my religion? I'm going to start a new religion. This Jewish stuff is crazy"? No. My kingdom. the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And so it now becomes political.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. It's political. It's not religious. It's political. At this juncture, it's political.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Republican or Democrat or some other obscure party. I'm talking about King of Kings, Lord of Lords, returning from to set things straight on this planet. I never said I was a minister. Never, ever, ever, ever. I got enough knowledge to certainly get a doctorate, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have been commissioned as is an ambassador of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So I don't get involved in earth politics. No, seriously, it would be committing an act of treason for me. This will sum it up, and it's in Acts 2, verse 21. Here's who the elect are, the elite, the chosen ones. It's all those who chose to make this move. It says in Acts 2:21, and everyone who calls on the name of Jehovah shall be saved. Get it right with God and make that connection. And so, yeah, now we're good. That's the vital piece of information. If you learn nothing else, Acts 2:21, and put God's name in your Bible, write it right in there, right where it says the Lord God. No, everyone calling on the name of Jehovah, because who are you going to call on? Baal, Ashtoreth, Molech?
No, we don't want to do that.
ISIS? No. So absolutely call on our Creator and Father. The only direct creation, the only other direct creation that has been recorded is Jesus. We are direct creation. Think about it. Hey, come and join me on Thursday nights, 9:00 Eastern, Revelation Trim Radio Network.
Do it.
Find it on Rumble and on YouTube.
I will have all the links easily accessible for everyone for all your content so they can go check you out. Peter, thank you so much. Like I said, we're going to have to do this again. There's a wealth of information that you could share with us, and we definitely will. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We will talk again tomorrow. Hello, friends. I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order.